Hello and welcome to the Hall Podcast. Today I'm your host, Mark Donnery. Normally I'm behind the camera, but today I have a treat. We have an amazing guest, Vancouver legend, Bif Naked. Welcome to the Hall.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, they can.
That was my fault. I'm sorry. That was my bad.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, welcome, Bif. How are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm kind of in a different seat here. Normally, I'm the producer of the show, and I'm honored to have you on today.
I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. So, when I was preparing for this podcast, I was doing a little bit of research, and something that I found out that was really cool is you were actually born in India.
Yeah, go figure. Yeah, in New Delhi, which is the capital. And my parents were working over there at the time. My adoptive parents were. And my sister was also born there. And then my parents moved back to the United States where they were from, and then had my little sister when they got back there, and then moved the three of us girls up to Canada, where I spent most of my upbringing in Manitoba and British Columbia before moving to Toronto 6 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what age were you when you came to BC? Is that where you started your music career, or were you because I heard you were in Winnipeg, right? Were you doing music in Winnipeg?
I went to high school and university in Winnipeg, and I got into music in my first year of university and got into a band called Gorilla, and we flipped a quarter trying to decide where we were going to move to. It was either going to be Toronto or Vancouver. At that time, it was really, we felt we needed to kind of pick one or the other, and we chose Vancouver. And we moved out to Vancouver in 1990.
1990.
And we moved out to Vancouver, and I joined another band called Chrome Dog in about 1991, and played in both bands for quite a while, and then became a solo artist in about 1993.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was a serendipitous time, really, in the early 90s to be in the Pacific Northwest if you're a musician. And I really grew up in the music scene in the Pacific Northwest and did a lot of my touring in Western Canada. But I owe a lot to Vancouver. Vancouver really raised me in many ways. So a lot of the old cats really helped me out, a lot of the old bands, and I still have my roots there, and all my friends. So it's fun when I come home and do shows. It always feels like a hometown show.
What bands would that be?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many bands. Like back then it would be like all these crazy bands like DSK and Dose Pump. Like I lived with this guy named Yoda. He was in Dose Pump, and there are bands from Winnipeg, like Personality Crisis and The Unwanted, and of course we played shows, with the Dayglow Abortions and DOA, and of course SNFU. Tri-Pig had this band called the Wongs, and my band played the first national tour ever with the Wongs across Canada, and that was a big deal for me at the time because he really mentored me in many ways. And then Gorilla got to open for Bad Religion at the Commodore, and then Chrome Dog got to open for Bad Religion at the Commodore again, and then we would play with like bands like 24/7 Spies or Guar, or anyone would be coming through. It was just a really great time to be a musician. And for me as a female, it was really important to me to be able to kind of be tough enough or be good enough to be eligible for all the same slots that any of the guys would be eligible for. So I took I took it very seriously and put a lot of effort into being as professional as I could and
Yeah.
being as tough as I could.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the female aspect of it's awesome. I've got an 11-year-old daughter at home that's learning to play the drums and wants to play in a rock
Very
band.
cool.
And
Very cool.
yeah, I love showing her other females that are doing awesome in the music industry. So,
Right on.
I read that you were doing like up to 300 shows a year. Is that correct?
At one point, for sure, I mean, that was what the job required. I mean, that was a different time for sure, you know, in the world when, you know, when everybody had tour buses and, you know, fuel was cheaper
Mm-hmm.
and record labels were throwing money around with tour support. And it was just a different era for all the bands in music. We were able to, you know, be on the Warped Tour and Lilith Fair Tour and tour with the Cult and tour with, you know, Kid Rock and tour with Fuel and, you know, go to Europe and go to the States. I mean, all the bands were probably doing 300 shows a year. So it was just a different time. You know, when you look at the late 90s and early 2000s, all the bands were doing 300 shows a year, I'm sure.
So you've toured all over the world. Any venue that just stands out in your memories that something to remember kind of thing? Something that you're looking forward to getting back to, maybe?
Oh, sure. I mean, I can say the Rickshaw, obviously, in Vancouver is one of my favorites, and it's, you know, it's up there with so many other other venues. You know, you can think in Germany or in Glasgow, like the Cat Club, or you can think of venues in Toronto, like the Opera Hall, or you can think of I guess the old Marquee Club in Halifax. You can think of so many places all over the world, Theatre of the Living Arts in Philadelphia, or even, I mean, just there's just so many different amazing places. But anywhere you go where you have people that actually want to see you play and perform is a great place to play. It doesn't matter where it is, whether it's on a flatbed truck or whether it's in front of 60,000 people. Every place can be special.
Yeah, yeah. So your records were, you had one in what, 96? Your first solo record? Did that come out in 96?
The first one came out in 94.
94,
and then the record label kind of folded, and so then we had to scramble and put it out in Europe, and then toured there for a while, and then 96, and then 98, and then, you know, just keep going. You know, there's little milestones that keep you going, and it seemed like just when you thought you were gonna, you know, get going, then somebody would pull the rug out from under you, and you'd have to keep getting up again. So I think that's with any job or with any career, and it's not, you know, it's not how many times you get knocked down, as they say, it's how many times you can keep getting up.
So going to that, then you had one big event that knocked you down pretty good. Your career was going great, and then you got a diagnosis.
Yes, definitely. I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 36 years old, and you know, like, especially at that time, I mean, it was a huge surprise. There was not, Twitter wasn't even invented yet. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, there was no Instagram. There were no blogs. There were not very many support groups for breast cancer patients. And there really wasn't that much information, actually, you know, for patient to patient support. You know, it was still kind of enshrouded in a lot of mystery and secrecy and weirdness and awkwardness. And I didn't know anybody else except old ladies who had breast cancer. And, you know, most of the people who heard about my diagnoses, including my own family and my, you know, people I worked with and the management team and stuff like that, you know, most people really thought I was going to die. I never did. That's not how I roll. It's not how I thought. You know, most people really just kind of shied away from talking about it, or, you know, they were, I guess, terrified. And I had to kind of step into a learning curve that I wasn't prepared for. But as a performer, that's all I know how to do. So it was just weird on many levels because I didn't get to experience breast cancer as a patient. I experienced breast cancer as Bif Naked. And so in the waiting rooms, I was still Bif Naked. And on television, I was still Bif Naked, but except with no hair. And, it was a very different experience. But what I learned and discovered as a patient, going through all the same things, all of my chemo sisters in the waiting rooms were all going through the same things, was that, sometimes what they were shy to say, it was easy for me to say and discuss. And I became a volunteer as a result. And that's something I would never have discovered that I had a passion for had I not been a patient. So I was always very, very grateful that I was diagnosed and that I did get that experience and that opportunity to be in the hospital and to be into the cancer wards, and specifically at BC Cancer. I loved my oncologist. I loved my radiation oncologist. I loved all of the experiences and all the learning that I had the opportunity to have as a result. I had a partial mastectomy. At the time, my tumor was estrogen receptor positive, which kind of sucked because, I was a chick. I had lots of estrogen. So it was fascinating. All of the different things that I learned, it was so fascinating. I had to get a surgically implanted port, with a catheter that had to be threaded up my neck. It was just everything was so interesting. I just never could have been prepared. Again, there was no Instagram. There was no TikTok. I never saw anybody else that had a port. I had never saw anybody else that was, had a pink ribbon tattoo. Like, it was just so intense and so all-consuming. It took over my life in many ways. But I made a record while I was going through chemo because I didn't know what else to do. And I discovered a lot of women still had to go to work while they were in chemo. They still had to make dinner for their families. They still had little kids to take care of. They still had to take the bus to their chemo and take the bus home. So it was just an amazing journey, and I developed a lot of friendships with other women that I still have today. I'm still friends with other survivors that I met during my time, and that was 13 years ago now, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, ever, never. I'm so grateful that I went through it with them, and that we're all still around to talk about it and tell and share our stories.
That positivity is amazing. Like I was telling you just before we started recording here, my mom just got diagnosed 2 weeks ago. And so our family's kind of going through that whole process. Now, obviously, she's in a different state than you. Like, she's quite a bit older than you. But it's something that as a family we're going through right now. And that positivity that you have is amazing. And thank you for that. And thank you for being a spokesperson for other women that are going through this.
Well, you give her my email, Mark. When we get off, you can give her my email. My sister is also going through her treatment. She just started her treatment. She's probably a few weeks ahead of your mom. But it is daunting. It is a huge learning curve. And for any patient, they kind of feel like it's suddenly a brand new full-time job. In a way, because it's full time. They're thrust full time into this world where there's so much to learn, and they have to do. I mean, it just becomes their full time life. But to try and reassure people that it's not forever. The treatment is literally not forever. And I remember one of the chemo nurses told me, she said, "Well, it's like being pregnant. Everyone used to tell you you're 9 months in." And 9 months, like your pregnancy life is like, and having a baby. And it's like, they used to tell women 9 months in and 9 months out is your baby life. And it's not forever. And, hopefully, that's what it'll be too. And and people are so afraid of chemo. But if you can remember that chemo is just, instead of calling it chemo, which is just, of course, short for chemotherapy, which is this big scary idea, it's like this big poisonous idea. If you could just always remember that it's the good medicine, just always remember that it's just the good medicine. Because it just gives you so many feelings and fears and anxiousness and stuff, especially, all of the, people are more afraid of the side effect than they are what it's actually doing. But it's, I'm living proof 13 years later. I guess that it just, millions of women went before me. And I remember being at a Run for the Cure and thinking, wow, I couldn't believe all these women were running. I was like, oh, they're running. Like, I'm not a runner, of course. And I just thought, how can they be running? And I was like, all of those women they had cancer. Like, I couldn't believe they had cancer and they were all running and they had long hair and running and they were healthy. And I just couldn't believe it. And the nurses were like, yep, they all had cancer before you. And I thought, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. I just thought, wow, they're all running. And it was really symbolic for me. And I just thought, I'm just going to always keep them in my mind. And it was very motivating to see them. I just marveled at how healthy they all were. And so just having that focus really helped me a lot. And so maybe that's something that, you guys can keep in your mind too.
So coping mechanisms, what did you have in place there then to help you get through some of that stuff? Was there spiritual
jokes.
beliefs? Was there just fun?
Absolutely. I think that, going into it, I mean, you are who you are and it doesn't really change, but yeah, definitely. And implementing new things like, if there are things that really make you feel good, whether it is watching the Golden Girls or, whatever is your favorite things to do, or like even just like having family nights that just really make you feel happy or connected as a family, just start implementing those, or if you guys have pets or if you, live close enough, just, yeah, have a pie night. Everybody take over a pie and have pie night, have popcorn night. Like just start implementing those, because it's just really going to make all the difference just to have those connections no matter what, because they're going to make all the difference. You guys are lucky because you're out there. Of course, I live here. Winter is really kind of annoying.
Oh, you got to come back to Vancouver then.
British Columbia. But, just, yeah, things that are restorative, really simple things like, yeah, pie night, movie night, pizza night, just things that bring you guys together. And it doesn't even have to be forced, just things that are just scheduled that really make all the difference. Just connection and staying together. Those little things make all the difference.
That's awesome. Great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. So you were a champion with that. Is that the name of your new album, Champion?
It is. And with other things. And, and your mom will be a champion, as will your family. And the thing is, with a diagnosis, the whole family gets diagnosed. And that's the thing, because everyone goes through it together. It's not just the one person. Everyone goes through it together. It's an experience the entire family experiences in many ways as they rally around, as you guys rally around your mom. And, all of us with Champion, it's the first record that I've done in 15 years. And I guess I didn't feel like doing a record in many ways because the music industry has changed, and people just put out singles. Bands put out singles all the time. A lot of bands just, don't think it's necessary in many ways to put out albums. Nobody listens to them anymore. Is a lot of the reasoning for that. And we just finally wanted to do it. And this record is a result of 4 years and a labor of love. And you can really hear it with Doug's guitar on there, and and in the songs, there's a lot of triumph that you can hear, a lot of victory, and I feel victorious as a person in so many ways all of the time. I write songs about the same thing. It's either longing or heartache or rage, and I just love those themes. Those themes are always going to be a common thread in my life, because I repeat patterns a lot. I never learn my lesson, and so those song themes will always be there.
Is there a song through your whole record collection that that's your favorite, that you get excited to sing, or are they all just amazing? Some of the songs
they all are, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the new record, for sure, it's Champion, definitely. I mean, it's the title track, and we also have remixes of the song, because it's so, it's such a powerful, infectious song. But naturally, I Love Myself Today is an anthem for a reason.
Yeah.
People love to sing along with it. It really does energize the audience, and it energizes people personally. And of course, Lucky is really a heartfelt love song for everybody. And Spaceman. I mean, I can think of reasons behind all of the songs.
Well, there are so many. So where does your tour start, and what's the plan for that?
Well, like the way a lot of the musical acts that I know and love, like us, do it today, we basically fly a lot of the time. And we just finished a big concert here with the Tea Party and the Headstones here in the Toronto area. And then next weekend we go to Ottawa. And then over the summer we'll be going throughout Alberta, and then of course the following month we're going to be coming to British Columbia, which will include a big show at the Rickshaw, a big hometown show at the Rickshaw.
Awesome.
And then on the island, of course. And then once we're having a documentary that we're still making, and that will be coming out, and we'll start doing stuff at the late fall, and then into 2025 they're already booking shows for that too.
Your show in Vancouver, do you know the date of that? I was just actually trying to look that up.
I think it's the 19th of September.
19th of September at the Rickshaw.
Yeah, at the Rickshaw.
And tickets are on sale now?
You bet.
Assuming. You talked about pets there. You have a little, I think I saw him earlier. You have a little Yorkie.
Yeah, Grace. Yeah, she's here.
Oh.
Hey. Yeah,
and what's her name?
That's Grace.
Grace. Well, I'm going to let you go and have some time with Grace. I want to thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
We look forward to your concert in Vancouver. Thank you very much for coming on. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
You can never